Picture is worth 1,000 words. The construction of the Zhovtneva Metro station in Kyiv, currently called Beresteiska, in the late 1960s was written about not only by domestic newspapers. Information about the strange situations that the builders of the metro system had come across when laying the tunnels in this place, in spite of the usual secrecy of those times, spread to the whole world. The construction was closely followed by Soviet and foreign journalists, and scientists put forward a variety of theories. This requires clarification. At first, the subway line to the west of the city was planned quite differently. From the Bolshevik factory, where Zhovtneva Metro station is now located, the metro should have been directed to Beresteiska district. But the plans changed. As a result, the strategic direction was chosen along Beresteiska Avenue. And this was no mistake. Massive housing construction was unfolding there. Thus, the passenger traffic in the direction of Svyatoshin was several times bigger, and a high-speed tram line was laid on Beresteiska Street, a close relative of the subway, and to a certain extent its competitor. Metro is a mode of transport that receives a huge volume of passenger traffic. So when it is unveiled, it negates the need for some routes of passenger surface transit. So quite often in Kyiv, when metro stations were opened, some ground transport routes were changed or abolished. A famous example is the tram along Beresteiska Avenue, now Perimohi Avenue, which existed there from the very beginning, from 1900. With the introduction of the metro, it was gradually phased out. In 1971, the metro reached Svyatoshin district. The tram then ran parallel to the metro line. But then the trams went from the center, past Polytechnic Institute, the zoo, the Bolshevik factory, and to Svyatoshin. But in 1978, the central section was removed, leaving trams only from Bolshevik and then to Svyatoshin. And in 1982, during the reconstruction of the avenue, the tram was scrapped completely.
Но в 1978 году убрали центральный кусок, оставили трамваи только от Большевика и дальше до Светошина, а в 1982 в ходе реконструкции проспекта с трамваями разделались совсем.
And the popularity of the subway grew. In the late 60s, the subway was already working on the edge of its means. The interval in rush hours was reduced to 2 minutes, but the trains were still overcrowded. 3 carriage trains ran on the line. There was just no technical ability to add a fourth. The final stop, at that time Bolshevik factory station, had a short circle, and 4 wagons simply could not turn around. But life does not die away here, even after the last train had rushed out. And when you see sweet dreams, the subway is getting ready for tomorrow's meeting with you. One chip is a nuisance, 2 a problem, but a crack is an emergency situation. And they're on guard, so that you can feel nice and calm. Nothing has changed since then, so the bright light on the station goes out and the autonomous lighting is switched on. The escalators stop. The screen stops counting the seconds after the last train has gone into the tunnel. It will pick up transfer passengers and take them to their destination stations. Then on the contact rail, the voltage is switched off, and only then does the subway go into night mode. Not rest, but into a different mode of work. Now the road to the tunnel is open for attendants. They only have a few hours to inspect the constructions, and if necessary, carry out minor repairs. Defectoscopists come here every day, inch by inch. They check the serviceability of the rails. To save time, they get around by rail motor cars. Diesel carts are used to transport equipment. The workers have a tough schedule. The voltage will be switched on again in the morning, so we need to get it all done by that time. The condition of any metro tunnel is periodically monitored. These tunnels encountered problems even after they were put into operation, so shall we say, they received additional treatment. They continued to be intensified until the end of the 1970s, when the problems were completely eliminated. So the condition of the tunnels themselves, as well as the trains into them. No tunnels are 100% leak-proof. One way or another, some water gets in there and leaks. This is the case in many sections. This is nothing terrible because, as I have already said, tunnels cannot be built 100% airtight. The most important thing is just to service the tunnel in time, to eliminate leaks so that they do not become critical and so that the tunnel does not start to collapse. The overpass tunnels between Zhovtneva and Beresteiska took no longer to build than it was planned. And a year later, only in November 1971, were the stations of this startup line opened. Beresteiska, the old name is Zhovtneva. This is a column subsurface station, the first of this kind in the Kyiv Metro. It is less than 20 meters deep against the 18 meters of the previous one, Zhovtneva. It belongs to a series of stations without a surface lobby, where the entrance is combined with pedestrian subways. The walls and columns of the vestibule and passages are lined with white marble slabs. The floor of the station hall is made of red polished granite. The platform has 2 rows of sparkling metal columns and strict straight rays of lamps located in the round niches of the suspended ceiling. There is a red marble wall at the end of the hall. There was a forged bas-relief of Lenin here up till the 90s as an ornament. Now it remained only in photographs. That section of the Kyiv subway between Zhovtneva and Beresteiska entered the history of world metro system building for several reasons. It was called exceptionally complicated. Tunnels longer than 2 kilometers had to be built through so-called soil flows. So the builders of the subway station had to build via so-called aquifers, which are layers of water-bearing rock. But such work comes with unpleasant surprises. Also, difference in height between the Zhovtneva and Beresteiska stations was 75 meters in total, of which about 65 were occupied by these soil flows.
Тогда боролись с водой как? Делали в торце тоннеля герметическую перегородку.
Back then, they fought against water like this. They created a leak-proof partition at the end of the tunnel, and air was pumped in there, which would not allow this water to get into the tunnel with its pressure. And people worked there under pressure. It was very harmful, dangerous for health. They worked depending on the increase in pressure, sometimes for 40 minutes or for an hour. And there was a lock-in through there. Watertight structures were used. I cannot say which year, but where they were needed. These structures were used near Vokzalna station and behind the Bolshevik plant, when the workers went to the station there to the crossing out of deep lane out on the shallow part. In addition, the section was built with a very steep slope, the record one in the entire Kyiv metro system. And yet, this segment of the path is the longest on the Red Line. Passengers do not feel it, because for them, even if they climb the tunnel on foot, it is a fairly smooth rise. But it is very difficult for a subway train. That is, to move 1 kilometer, the road rises upwards by 42 meters. It is difficult for a subway train, but for railway trains, it is doubly harder than all the usual permissible standards, because the trains are heavier. Because of this, for example, tests are often carried out of new rolling stock, some modernized cars, a number of systems are tested, including brake systems, and are certified on this section of the line. The steep rise after Zhovtneva does not start immediately. There were reverse tracks and a dead end in this place from 1965 to 1971. The tunnel here is built almost completely of 6-meter diameter cast iron tubing, and only after 300 meters do the rails rise sharply upwards. From this point towards Beresteiska, the train is gaining maximum speed. All 20 engines are working at full power, without being turned off virtually until the very end of the rise.
Если говорить о тоннеле между Берестейской и Шулявской на сегодняшний день. Да, там уклон 40 тысячных.
If we talk about the tunnel between Beresteiska and Zhovtneva, as of now we have a 4% slope. This means that the tail of the car, floor of the car, differs from the beginning of the car by a whole meter. We do not notice it when we're moving, but really, the two edges of the car have a meter drop in height. That is just one car, but the whole train is already 4 meters. We have a 100-meter structure, so every 100 meters have a height difference of 4 meters.
На каждые 100 метров перепад высоты.
The drilling progress lasted 4 long, difficult years in total. During this time, 5.5 million cubic meters of water were pumped out of there. The route was almost ready, and suddenly something inexplicable happened. Steel balls, 3 centimeters in diameter, which are used to fasten pig iron tubes, suddenly become unfit for purpose. They were destroyed by corrosion. To be precise, sulfuric acid corroded them. But how could it get into underground tunnels? Soil studies carried out to detect harmful types of waste from the nearest manufacturing sites provided no results. The plans were beyond suspicion. Leading research institutes in Kyiv and Moscow were enlisted to solve this anomaly of metro tunnels. Virologists and microbiologists also worked, and finally scientists found the cause.
На большой глубине в одном из водоносных слоев в состоянии анабиоза, то есть
At a great depth, in one of the aquifers, in a state of anabiosis, a half-sleeping state, so-called thionic bacteria were sleeping. They existed there quietly, did not touch anyone, until Metro boot came along, which pumped fresh air into this space, even under pressure. The bacteria woke up, realized that they had their great day, and began to live and reproduce, and to enjoy their lives in every possible way. At the same time, in the same aquifer, there is a mineral called pyrite. This is raw material for sulfuric acid production on an industrial scale. As these bacteria, in the process of vitality, decompose this mineral, respectively, after some time, sulfuric acid formed, which corroded the tubes too.
через какое-то время образовалась серная кислота, которая разъела тюбинги.
This was a unique case in the practice of world tunnel building. Due to the corroding of metal structures, it was necessary to erect an extra reinforced concrete shirt throughout almost the length of the run. And only after the tunnels were insulated sometime later, when the concentration of sulfuric acid fell, was work able to continue. With a delay of 1 year, the line from the Bolshevik factory to Svyatoshin was solemnly opened on November 5, 1971. Construction of the subway in the capital of Ukraine continued, and how many new discoveries were still to come. The doors are closing. The next station is